And so from then on, I was in the online services. The internet started taking off. I was doing some little things, started making a little bit of money. My first profitable year online was while I was 23, almost 24 years old, and I made $6,500 in income that year. Now, for me, though, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but for me, it was a lot because it paid, I had roommates, so it paid my cost of living, allowed me to live and support myself. But that was the first year of really making profit. And, you know, of course I was taking, there's probably 2 or 3 grand I could take and chip away at the credit card debt, even though the interest pretty much knocked it out.
Yeah, sure.
But so what happened with me then is I was involved doing, you know, the internet really started taking off around 1994. The web really in 94, 95, 96 started taking off.
And how old would you have been then? 24?
I was 24 in 93, 94.
Got it.
So I guess almost 1995. So, but around that point in 94 and in 93, I discovered domain names, these .com names that everyone knows about today. And I looked at it, and just for whatever reason, I just realized, I just kind of looked at it like virtual real estate. I was like, wow, I was like, these names, someday someone's going to want to have the toys.com and the sports.com. And so I registered a few names with a little bit of money that I had left
How much did
over.
it cost back then?
$100 per name.
$100.
Because you had to register it for a minimum of 2 years, and it was $50 a year.
Wow.
And so I remember registering, like, I almost literally took the last $500 I had. I hate that sounds so cliche, but I spent my last dollar, and that's when my life changed.
Yeah.
But at that point, I mean, I had other little things I was working on, selling some classified ad materials and making a few hundred here and there. But I took about $500 that I had freed up on one of the credit cards that I started paying down. I was like, you know, here I go getting in debt again, but I really believed in this. And I registered a few names, you know, that I had picked out and that I had realized that were available. Well, literally 3 days after I had registered these names, I had a guy contact me and say, I saw you just registered this certain name.
What was the name of
I
it?
can't mention the name because I had to sign non-disclosure to the contract when I sold it. Otherwise I would say what it was.
Was it the name of a company that
It was
existed?
no, it was a 4-letter generic term.
Okay, that's
Yeah, that
now we're all sitting around guessing. Okay, 4-letter term. What's
that described a very large industry.
Okay, got it.
But I paid $100 for it. So this guy contacts me and he says, "Hey, I see you registered such and such." He's like, "I'll buy it from you for $1,000."
So you got a $900 profit like that.
Yeah, and so here I'm thinking, you know, I'm thinking of all the, you know, sales books I've read about negotiation and how to, you know, go higher than you want, and I'm thinking if I ask for $5,000, and then part of my brain says, "You're an idiot. Just take the $1,000. Don't screw it up." Because $900 profit to me was the world back then.
Sure.
So I told the guy, "Yeah, okay, I'll sell it to you, you know, whatever else." So, you know, we did the deal. He wired me the money. And I was on cloud 9, man, because all my friends knew that I was like just a hermit in a cave working on the computer trying to make money.
Yeah.
Family knew I was in debt. Man, I bragged to everybody I knew. I just
made 900%.
I just made $900 profit in like 3 days. You know, I told you I was going to be rich someday. I told you this stuff would work. You know, and so I was on cloud 9 for, you know, about a week while it was all going on. I was, you know, went to Subway a few times and celebrated. You know, had a great time. So about 10 days later, this guy calls me that bought the name, and he says, "Hey, John," he says, "you know, can I get you to sign, I know it's after the fact when we did this deal for the $1,000, but can I get you to sign an agreement, I forgot to get you to do it, that basically just says that there were no copyright claims on that name, there's no tax liens, infringement, you know, any lawsuits involved with it," which of course there wasn't any. "You know, could I get you to sign that just to make the name free and clear so I can do whatever I want with it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I signed this thing, faxed it back. It's right after I faxed it, the guy calls me and he says, "Hey, John, thanks for faxing the agreement. Really appreciate it." He said, "You know," he said, "I really have to tell you something, you know, related to this name and our deal." He goes, "Otherwise, I kind of wouldn't be able to live with myself." And he said, "You know," he said, "I wasn't buying your name for myself and to use it for my own business." He said, "I was actually buying the name and brokering it to a venture capital firm." And he said, "I just had to tell you, man." He said, "I sold the name for $1 million."
Oh my God.
And so
He had to live with himself. Did he give you any additional profit besides the
no, he
900?
didn't.
He didn't give you a dime more.
No, and I don't blame him. You know, he pulled it off. It was his money, had nothing to do with me.
So he made $1 million.
$1 million.
$1,000.
He sold. He was selling it for $1 million before he even owned it, and got it all lined up, and then bought it. And just smart of him, you know.
Wow.
Not good for me, at least emotionally.
But also, he's such a hit.
So here's what I literally, Tony, I felt like I got kicked in the stomach.